Well, thank you so much for having me.
Hi, and welcome to the Monetize Your Mission Mastermind for June 11th, 2026, where we have Krissi Driver from the Right Hustle Writing Group over on School joining us to talk about writing and how you can get paid for your content in ways other than you might have already experienced. So, welcome, Krissi, and we'll have you take it away.
Thank you, Jill. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. This is fantastic that you invited me, and I am so excited to share a few things. So I'm going to share my screen just to get us going, if that is okay. Let's
Perfect.
just see if I can get the right screen up here. Fantastic. Okay, I think everybody can see this. And I'm gonna hide the video panel. All right. So I've got just a few things to, oops, wrong button. Present. That is what I'm looking for. Okay. Got just a few things to run us through, and then I'm going to open the floor to questions. I'm calling this Before You Publish because that is what we're going to be talking about today specifically. So before we get into it, just a little bit about me. My name is Krissi, as Jill said, and I'm a writing coach, ghostwriter, and content strategist. So I still write content for other people, but I also write for myself. I have my name on several different things. I live in South Korea, so I'm coming to you from the future. It is 5 a.m. my time. A little early for me, but I'm super excited to be here. And I came originally because I had $60,000 in student loan debt from the US that I really could not afford. I came in 2013, I was just telling Jill, and I loved it and stayed. And so I still run my business over here. I have a part time teaching job to keep a local residency visa. But I love Korea and it has become my home. So I learned how to write for the internet back in about 2015 from a content marketing internship I was lucky enough to land. And that's when I learned how to write and edit and do business content management. And now what I do is I still write that kind of content for different business owners, but I also help writers and entrepreneurs pitch and submit to media outlets and literary publications, which is what we're going to talk about today, to help them gain visibility so that they can get Googleable. So, this is a big part of what can help your business, gives you some visibility. I've also helped my clients land opportunities and quotes in places like Reader's Digest, Authority Magazine, Business Insider. And I myself have bylines, meaning that it shows written by Krissi Driver in the New York Times, The Guardian, Business Insider, fastcompany.com, and a few other cool publications. So that is a little bit about me. Let's talk really quickly about what we're going to go through. And I am going to go really quickly. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I might not answer them immediately, but I 100% will go back and look through all the questions. And Jill can probably help us with that as well. Feel free to interrupt every once in a while. I turn the video panel off because it distracts me. So I don't see your faces, but I 100% will be back on to to answer any questions you have. So what we're going to talk about today, what are first rights? What are the options that you have? Finding a home for your writing. We're going to do a very quick strategy exercise. And then, as you probably guessed, I have a small offer to offer you at the end, of course, and we'll open up the floor to discussion and Q&A. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So first rights, what are first rights? You maybe have heard this, maybe you haven't. Maybe you're like scratching your head wondering what I'm talking about. So actually, I'm going to turn my video panel back on really quickly. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. How many people here publish regularly on one of these places? Substack. Yeah. Okay. Probably mostly
Almost everybody
Substack.
does.
Yeah, yeah. And Jill, because you talk so much about Substack, I would imagine most of us are Substack. I'm a little late on my Substack post this week. We won't talk about that. But yes, this is pretty normal for I think most business owners is you're going to be publishing somewhere. So whether you're doing a LinkedIn Newsletter, which I don't know a ton about, I'll be frank, or doing something with their publishing platform like LinkedIn Pulse, which I think is still a thing, personal blog or a business blog on your own website, Medium, Substack. These are all really common places to publish. And what they're great, but what you're doing is you are the first person to publish your work. So, what does first rights mean? It simply means that you're giving the publications or yourself, in the case of those places, the opportunity to be the first publisher of your work. So, it's like the origin point of your writing. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's great, but there are other places where your content can live. And most publications prefer original work. So, original work, think about it from the terms of like an editor at a publication. They want something unique to attract more readers or to attract longer view times on their platforms, on their websites. And published means more than just published in a magazine or a newspaper. Anything that gets publicly shared anywhere counts as being published. So, for example, I've shared short stories on my Instagram. You might have something on your Substack, of course, anything on your blog, anything on a third party website. So I've also written some short stories for a website like group called Readsy, and they publicly post your content there. Anything that gets shared that's in a public space, that counts as being published. And so what this means is once you hit publish on Substack or Medium or Readsy or your Instagram share or whatever, you are making a publishing decision. You are claiming those first rights for yourself, whether you realize that you are doing that or not. And it's again, it's not a bad thing. It just means you have limited your opportunities. So take Paul for example. Paul writes a personal essay about his experience in his business. Yay for Paul. That's fantastic. Good job, Paul. Paul posts it on Substack or puts it on his Medium, or worse, he does both. And I say worse because that does not help you so much with your search engine optimization, which we won't get into today. That's a totally different can of worms and different story for another day. But let's just say that that's what Paul does. And then one day, 3 months later, he discovers there's a publication, maybe Business Insider is calling for work that's just like the personal essay he wrote and put on his Substack. He decides to submit it or pitch to the editor that's calling for these personal essays, and the editor decides to decline it because his piece has already been published. That is very common. So it's not that Paul did anything wrong. He didn't. He just claimed those first rights, publishing rights for himself. So sorry, Paul, unfortunately for him. So when do first rights actually matter? They don't always matter. In a lot of cases, they won't matter at all for you. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a couple of minutes. But they matter most when you're considering publications that want original work. So when you are writing something, or maybe you have some ideas, you've got your content calendar planned out, or you've got a list of ideas if you're not as organized like me, and you're thinking, okay, well, where can this go? Because you actually may have more options than you realize that you do. Excuse me. So, first rights don't matter when you're trying to build an audience, when you're trying to grow an email list. They don't particularly matter when you're sharing your ideas, you're boosting your business, or you're serving your own readers. Now, these things don't matter as much, but they also can matter. So it's not a perfect system, which is what I should say, because when you publish somewhere else, you have the opportunity to build an audience. You have an opportunity to grow your email list. You have an opportunity to share your ideas and boost your business and serve readers in a different place. So these things both matter and don't matter, which can be a little bit confusing, I know, and a little bit oxymoronish, I guess. So, a list of publications that typically require first rights: literary journals and magazines, print magazines, newspapers, which are still a thing, believe it or not, online publications, anthologies, so books that are made up of, several different pieces, art, stories, or personal essays. One that I think of is like Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's still a thing. They still print those. They have them in ebooks, and they still collect stories for those every day, which is pretty amazing to me all these years later, and writing contests. And the ones that I've put an asterisk next to, there are very often places that specifically are open to having work previously published. Um, these these are fewer and far between. There are less of them, but they do exist. Print magazines and newspapers, it is very rare that they will take something that's been published already somewhere else. Very, very rare. And I would say even online publications, it's pretty rare for online publications to take something that's been published somewhere else. But I have seen it happen recently, actually, with a woman on Substack, incidentally enough. So the key takeaway from all of this that we have skated through very quickly is before you hit publish, make sure that you understand your options and decide what you might want to do with your writing. So if you have a sort of inkling that maybe something will fit well somewhere else before you hit publish, stop and think about that. And we'll talk about where you could potentially put that piece or try to get it published. So, what are your options? If you think you might have an option, let's talk about that. So, of course, you can self publish, like we've just been talking about, your Substack, Medium, LinkedIn, personal or business blog. You can always do that. That's always an option. And you can always do this if you try to find a different home for your writing and it's just not working out, and you're getting impatient because sometimes these things take a while. You can always go back and self publish. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't want to diss self publishing. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you can go with publication publishing, which sounds very repetitive. Online and print publications. So, all of these places that we've already talked about, literary magazines or journals. So, I'm talking about when I say literary magazines and journals, if you're not a big lit mag reader, that might be like the Sun publication, or there's a website called Chill Subs, Chill Subs, that has literally thousands of literary publications. There are so many of them, some of them print, some of them online, some of them both, that will publish things like fiction, short fiction, flash stories, personal essays, memoirs, you name it. They run the gamut of different types of writing, poetry, that kind of thing. Anthologies again, writing contests, and you can also do guest articles. So you might find somebody on Substack or another blog, for example, somebody that you follow. They might be open to having a piece written by an outsider on their website, on their Substack or their blog. And before you publish it anywhere else, you could potentially publish it with them. So you might fit somewhere else perfectly, like this guy is saying. You never know. So, how to decide what are you going to do with this piece of writing that you have? If you're serving your audience with specific content, your self-publishing platform, your LinkedIn, your Substack, your Medium is likely the best place for your work. So if you are trying to serve your audience with information about your business specifically, your publication is probably the best place for that. But if your work could benefit or entertain being the main word here, wider audiences, you might do well to pitch or submit it somewhere else. So, what I mean by this, and I have in my community a free course called the Byline Blueprint that is open to everyone when you join the community on School. I talk a lot about what pitching and submitting is versus what it is not. And one of the big things that it is not is it's not an opportunity for you to toot your horn about your own business. There needs to be something that is unique and of service or of entertainment to the audience. And so if your work is your writing, the piece that you're going to publish or you want to publish is more self-serving than it is audience serving at the end of the road, it's probably best that you put it on your own platform. And I'm sure there will be questions about that. We could definitely talk more about that, but let's keep moving. So, finding a home, how do you actually choose the right home for your work? And I keep saying right home, but there really is no right home. It's kind of like how some people believe that there is not um, what is like a one true love for us. That's sort of the way I feel about writing as well. There's not necessarily one perfect place where your writing can be, or one correct place. It depends on what you want to accomplish. So your piece obviously is going to fit very well with your Substack or your Medium, but it could fit somewhere else. And that's why I recommend you pause before you jump into it and try to figure out what exactly you want to do with that work. So, some goals that you might have, you might want to reach as many readers as possible, which you may be able to achieve with your own platform, but you will probably be able to achieve better through a mainstream publication. You might want to build authority and grow an audience. A mainstream publication will help you do that. A literary publication can also help you do that because it looks really cool on your website. You might want to support another project. So by this, I mean maybe you're launching something in the future and you want to reach more people. And so you somehow, you pitch an idea to a Business Insider editor and they say, yes, let's do it. And you get a link back to your website or your school community or your landing page, whatever it may be, that can help you grow an audience, um, from that publication that you might not otherwise have had if you only did it on your Substack. So you might want to support another project in that way. You might want to stack bylines and increase your visibility. So it looks really cool. I think it's pretty cool for me to sit down and tell people, oh, I've been published in the New York Times and the Guardian and Business Insider. Da, 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 da. It's pretty awesome to be able to say those things. So you can stack your bylines. It makes you feel really good. I can speak from personal experience. Helps you increase visibility, achieve some creative goals. So maybe you've always wanted to write a book. I don't help people write books, but I do help people get published in other places. So you are a paid writer, potentially paid, it's usually paid, earn a little bit of money. I will stress it's not a lot of money, but you can earn a little bit of money from publishing out with outside publications that are not your Substack or your Medium or whatever. So those are just some possible goals you might have for your work. And if you have these things, these things in advance, that can help you determine where you might want to place your piece. So these are the sorts of questions I ask myself when I'm getting ready to write something or when I have an idea, and my students before I ask, well, where should we submit this or where should we pitch this, which are two different processes. I ask things like, what type of piece is this? Is it a personal essay? Is it a service essay in some way that's going to best fit my Substack? And I can usually tell with whether or not it's going to be a good fit somewhere else or if it's best on my own publication. What are the goals of this piece? Like what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? Do I want another byline, or am I trying to do something creatively, achieve some sort of creative endeavor? Has it been published before? Not necessarily the idea, but the piece itself. So have you already written it and published it somewhere? If yes, that shuts some things down. But if it's just an idea or it's something you've written about before and you have a new idea for something fresh, there's still a lot of potential for that. Who is the audience? So what is it that or who are the people that you want to be reaching with this? Are you just trying to reach your own people? Are you trying to grow that audience? How much are you trying to grow that audience? And from where are you going to try and grow that audience? Again, is it finished? So that's a little bit, um, I, I guess the two differentiators between there, is it finished versus has the idea itself been published before? Could it be stronger with revisions? So is it something that you need to change? You've already written it, and if you change some of it, that makes it stronger and makes it a better piece, and therefore makes it a new piece of content. Um, should it be submitted as a completed piece? So sometimes you'll have an idea and you might want to send it somewhere else, but maybe it should be sent as a completed piece, not as a just an idea. Sometimes that's harder to discern. And it depends on the publication you're trying to get into, but it might be a situation where you want to actually write it out versus just sending an idea over to an editor. And that in that case, would it work better as a pitch, sending an idea to an editor as opposed to sending a full piece? So these are the kinds of questions that I want to stop and ask myself before I get too excited and like publish on my Substack, and also that I ask my students. Okay, so questions that I suggest that you ask yourself, not so much where can I publish this, but what is the best home? And they sound very similar, but they have a bit of nuance to them. So not every publication is equal. Not every opportunity is going to serve the same goal. So literary publications and mainstream publications like Quartz and Slate and Business Insider and print magazines and newspapers, they hold a lot more weight, I would say, and clout compared to literary publications that are homes for your creative work. So they're not all equal opportunity publications. You'll get something different out of each of them. That said, not every piece belongs on Substack. There are pieces that you may write that would would better serve wider audiences elsewhere, and or that would entertain audiences elsewhere and give you a little bit more credibility. And not every piece belongs in a literary journal. So again, it's not a perfect science, but I do recommend that before you make a decision about what it is that you're publishing, that you kind of ask yourself these questions, and just pause for a moment. So I'm going to bring back the camera here. Let's see if I can find my controls so I can see everybody. Okay, so we're going to do just a little assignment. And I would love for you to think of a idea that you have or a piece that you've already written, and it can be published. That doesn't mean that it can't go somewhere else. You're more limited in that department, but it doesn't mean that you can't go somewhere else. So think of something that you have been thinking about writing or something you recently wrote, ideally that's not published yet. I'm going to give you just a second to think about that. If you need to look at your content list or whatever it may be, feel free to do that. We'll give you just a second to think about this.
I can jump in here while everybody else is thinking about what they're going to do.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was thinking about creating an article about why Substack, why now, which is not something that
Mm.
would live on my Substack account or in my school community. It's
Hmm.
something that would serve a larger audience. And when you were talking about um, deciding where your piece is going to live and how publications give you authority to
Hmm.
support your Substack, whereas your
Yes.
Substack makes it gives also builds authority for why they should listen to you over on
Right.
the literary publication. They cross back and forth, but
They do.
what fits in one space doesn't necessarily belong in the other space.
Correct. Yeah. That's a very good example, Jill. And I would say something like that would fit well. with like a Business Insider audience. And the beauty of that is what I always recommend to entrepreneurs who are pitching to publications is whatever you link back to, because you typically will get a link, not I want to say not always. So when I wrote for the New York Times, I never got a link back, but I don't care about that because I got published on the front page of the New York Times, which was like the coolest thing I could ever say. I don't care. Like, but
Yeah,
most of
there's
the there's things that you don't care about, right? But most of the time, especially with an online publication, you get a link back. And the best thing that you can do is link back to somewhere where you're going to collect email addresses. Substack, a landing page where you're giving something away for free, some sort of like freebie. I can't, lead magnet, that's the word I'm trying to look for. My brain, I haven't had all my coffee yet today, so my brain is not quite fully on yet. Um, but that's the best thing that you can do because it gives you this extra opportunity to not only are you in front of eyeballs you would not have otherwise been in front of, but now you're able to gain their attention for a longer period of time. So that's an excellent example. All right, so I hopefully everybody else has gotten some sort of idea in their head. Let's move to the next thing here. The next question I'm going to ask you. Oops, and here are the possible goals. I should have moved to this a little earlier. Sorry about that. So think about with this piece, what this idea or this piece that you've already written that you haven't published yet, ideally, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? So in this example that Jill and I are talking about here, maybe she's probably wanting to reach as many readers as possible and then build more authority and grow an audience from a different publication. So she's bringing people from a place like Business Insider or maybe Slate or, other businessy Yahoo News or something like that, which is a syndicated Business Insider, to bring them to her Substack. So she's going to get something out of that. Maybe you want to support another project. You're launching something, you're trying to grow something. So this also these things are not a perfect fit, right? Like each of them kind of has a hand in these different things, different pies. Stack your bylines. Maybe you don't care about bylines so much, but it's an opportunity to increase your visibility. Maybe you just want to get, maybe this is just a goal for you. I want to be published somewhere. Great. That's fantastic. It's a fantastic goal to have. Or maybe you want to earn a little bit of money. Again, a little bit. I stress the little because it's not a lot of money. Okay. So now think about, with your goals in mind, where your work might fit. And the best way to do this is to think about, have you read something like what you're writing or like the idea that you have? Have not necessarily the topic, but the kind of article or piece that you want to write. Are you writing some sort of a how-to article? Are you writing some sort of service article? In Jill's case, like why Substack, why now? That's a service to other people, trying to convince them to come over to the other side, come to the Substack side. That is a very specific goal that Jill is trying to achieve here by writing this piece. And the other thing you can ask yourself is, where would you love to see your work published? There was a day when I didn't think I could ever get published in the New York Times, and then it happened. I never expected that to happen, but I had a dream of being there someday, and I tried, and it worked out. It was a long road, but it did work out. So sometimes just the idea of where you want to be is enough for you to get published there and send a pitch into that publication. So those are some of the questions I ask. The next thing that you'll need to do, and I'm not going to give us any time for this because it can take a while, is to search for the writing guidelines. So you need to know, wherever it is that you've decided, oh, I could maybe send something here, or I could submit something there, or pitch something here to these editors. You need to know what the expectations are for that publication. Do they want a full draft? Most mainstream publications, I will tell you, do not want a full draft. They want what's called a pitch, which is somewhere between 250 and 300 words about your idea. and why why you should be writing it now, why you and specifically should be the person to write it, and why it matters in general. But you need to know what the expectations are. So I would encourage you to Google writing guidelines for or write for Business Insider or whatever. And most publications very clearly, somewhere on their website, have those things written out. They'll tell you where to send it. They'll tell you how to do that. My course will also tell you how to do that in my school community. Again, it's totally free, so feel free to hop over there to the Right Hustle group. But that is a very important part of the process, is knowing what the expectations are for each different publication. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you want a little bit of help, I did say at the beginning that I was going to make an offer, and I have something special for you today since you are here for the live show, if you will. You don't have to go alone. I offer pitch and submission coaching package. I have a single 2 hour submission strategy that we will talk about, a single piece. I'll get into that in just a second, or a weekly done with you coaching and accountability membership that I offer. So what that typically looks like in a single submission strategy, it's a 2 hour working session. We'll work on one piece together. And if it's written already, we'll do a light developmental edit on your work, or we'll work on a pitch if you don't have one already. So I think probably my guess in this community, in this conversation here, most folks are going to be pitching as opposed to submitting completed work. So just throw that out there. We'll go through and find a list of at least 5 publications or writing contests that are aligned with what you're trying to accomplish and what your piece is trying to accomplish. And then you have 2 weeks of WhatsApp, or I should say email, because some people prefer email, and that's fine. So 2 weeks of texting in some capacity support. I typically charge $279 for this session, but because you are here live today, I'm going to drop a coupon code in the chat here in a second. You get $50 off of this session, so that is available to you. The other option is a weekly coaching membership. So if you have several pieces, or you want to just start a barrage of trying to get these sorts of things out into the world, this is more of an accountability. So you're going to be doing the pitching, the submitting, but we'll work on those things together, meet once a week to talk about your goals, to perfect your pieces, perfect your pitches, create a strategy of where you're going to send them, how often, when you're going to follow up, all of that stuff. We will work on all of that together. We'll meet once a week for an hour and do all of the things in the previous one. And then you'll also have access to my weekly gateless writing salon. So I run writing a writing community on School, and I do weekly sessions where we do a prompted writing session in a small group. So you'll have access to those as well when you're a member. And your first month, again, with the coupon code, you'll save $50 here, $3.99, normally $4.49 per month. So that's the offer. And I will drop the coupon code into the chat here in just a second. If you're interested in that, you can go to KrissiDriver.com. My name is KRISSI, KrissiDriver.com/MMM live will get you to the right place. And I will drop the coupon code for you here in just a second. But that is it for me. So I am super excited to answer your questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open the chat. Let me drop the coupon code before I forget about it. Okay. And if you have issues with it, feel free to reach out to me and I will hook you up. So let me look
Is
through
this for
these
people that
questions.
watch the replay as well?
I wasn't planning on that, but we can do that if you would prefer that. Jill, I thought that we might want to do something special for coming live, but I know you have a community that comes often and maybe not everybody is here. So feel free to share that with everyone else. That's perfectly fine. Yeah,
Okay.
happy to do that. Okay, so let's see. Oh, hi, Soph. You're in kids' bedtime. Totally understand. Okay,
You
are there
guys are
any
also welcome
questions?
to just unmute yourselves and jump in here. That's
Yeah,
what we're all about. Ask questions.
absolutely.
Um, do you have ideas about things that you would like to pitch to different spaces? Like Caroline, I know you'd be great in crafting magazines. You've got
Yes.
you've
Yes,
got all the
absolutely.
things going on
Crochet.
there.
Hmm.
Well, there's lots of things in my head, but nothing I've actually sort of decided on at the minute. So yeah, it's all in there. That's why I thought this might be good for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I care. That's an excellent point. And Caroline, there are, as I'm sure you know, there are so many craft and like industry specific magazines, crochet magazines. If you, I don't know if you also knit or whatever,
Yeah.
those publications, they're always looking. The other thing to remember too that we didn't really get into is publications are always looking for new ideas and new writers. So the publishing industry has been turned upside down in the last several years. There are more and more writers getting laid off all the time, which is sad. I'm sad to say that, but that also means there's more opportunity for people like us because these publications, they still need content and they don't care about the fact that you don't have an MFA, a master's of fine arts, and they don't care that you're not a trained journalist. None of that matters. So yeah, those kinds of publications are like perfect for people that have experience like yours. Hmm.
That
And
sounds really.
Soph and Abigail, I know both are like they're moms, but they have like aspects of it. And I
Yeah.
know, Soph, that you really lean into the spiritual side of things, but your story is really powerful in empowering women who have kids that are going through traumatic
Mm,
experiences. It's really
yeah.
encouraging.
Yes, those kinds of stories are very popular. So think about places like HuffPost Personal, um, the New York Times Love, Modern Love, and Tiny Love Stories. Those are written by everyday people, if you will. Newsweek has a personal essay section online that they publish at least once a week, if not more frequently, called My Turn. So you could Google that, Newsweek, My Turn. Those are great places for personal essays. Um, yeah, stories of hope, exactly. So like those are the kinds of
Chicken
places
soup
that
for the
sometimes you don't.
soul.
Yes, Chicken Soup for the Soul. They
Your
still take
your
stories.
story specifically, Soph, would fit in there like so well.
And theirs are interesting because those are anthologies. So the single book is based on one theme, right? But they're recruiting for stories for different themes all the time, cats and dogs and funny stories and stories about couples and families. And if you don't see it one month, go back 3 months later because they recruit for several months at a time for these different stories, and those are great places to get. Yes, do have a look at that. Just Google it, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Poke around their website. That's a great place to get started. Yeah, really, really, really good one.
And I know
Yeah,
Tracy's into magic and stuff along
yeah,
those lines. And there are publications out there, and people are looking for information like the
yeah,
kinds of information that you share. So
yeah.
Yeah,
just because,
there are definitely publications. They're mostly looking for folklore. There aren't a whole lot of magical, like quarterly or monthly publications
Mm.
that I know of. I subscribe to a thing called Quoted, which is
Oh
about,
yes.
yeah, and so you get an email every day about
Hmm.
different reporters or podcasters or what have you that are looking for information. And so I hear about a lot of different publications. They're usually looking for a very specific answer,
Yes.
which is cool. If you have that
Hmm.
specific answer, the very narrow qualifications.
Right.
but
Right.
still it introduces me to a lot of publications. So they're definitely out there, Jill.
Yes, they are. And Tracy, if you subscribe to Quoted, another option for you might be help a reporter out if you're not familiar with that, HARO.
Yeah,
Um,
I did. I tried that, and it wasn't like nothing for a long time was anywhere near what I
okay.
do. And
Okay.
so, in the sort of spirit of not having more emails than I need to, I
Oh, yes.
dropped that one.
I
But
They send 3 a day. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
there's
yeah.
gets to be a lot. The other thing about them though, so they were recently purchased and have like sort of what is the word, by osmosis, been pulled into this other conglomerate called Connectively. And Connectively is also part of like if you search for these things, it should take you to the right place because I don't know exactly how it all works anymore. HARO is connected to Connectively, and Connectively is, I think, the new name for a platform called Featured. Featured
Mm,
might be a good place for you because that is like Quoted, and like HARO, but you also have the opportunity to write and submit things through that portal to particular publications.
mhm.
And I've kind of scanned through there, and there are publications and blogs and websites I've never even heard of. So that might be worth checking out because you might find a publication you didn't know about
Yeah,
before there
yeah,
that would be a good fit for you. Yeah.
yeah. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
So Malia
absolutely.
and Diana and Anel and Kelly, you guys want to share what you're doing and maybe we can give you some ideas about angles or publications or places to go to find.
Um, I just saw the call popping up and got curious. So that's been just like no specific something. So yes, I am a published author. So we just won the third book award for the thing. So it's been kind of nice. So but yeah, am I the only person? Like so many people tell me I have so much to say, and not always willing to write it down. So I can write. So that is it's more like so. So it's and yes. So when I'm into it, it's okay. But it's like, and I really love language, though that's also not the issue. But it's literally like so the whole ego thingy. So potentially like what could hook me more is same like in my work, if I know it's for something, so having it a little bit more purpose driven than just like, here, look, isn't she beautiful? So it's just like nothing that excites me. So it's just like the whole ego part of it, like, oh my beautiful something. So yeah, it's just I don't know. So maybe that's just me.
That makes perfect sense. I think sometimes it's hard to sit down and write things. I am a writer, and sometimes I don't want to sit down and write things. I think that's an experience we probably always have. Oh, hi, Malia. I'm glad you're here. Um, and so I sometimes find if I have an idea that just talking it out to my like my app on my phone, yes, I literally will just babble for a while at my phone and let it record what I'm saying, and then I'll take that to a transcription service and have that put out exactly what it is that I've said. And I usually don't read through that exactly. I'll put it into Chat GPT or something and tell it don't change anything that I've said, but just clean it up so it's easier to read it because there's, not periods and stuff like that. And yeah, Malia, right, exactly. It's great for a brain dump. Because sometimes it is really hard to get started, or you feel like, oh, I don't know if this is a good enough idea to really write about, but sometimes it's just better to talk. I think we have that perfectionism thing that stops us in our tracks a lot of times when we're trying to write about something. And so I highly recommend just saying things out loud and recording it and seeing where that takes you. Because you might have a lot of ideas, believe it or not.
Oh, that is not the question. It's just like all the
No?
work that's coming with it.
Yeah, yeah. That and getting
So,
it
and
getting it
maybe that's
organized.
too
Yeah.
transparent, but by the way, when you say transcription service, so I highly recommend just like doing looms because you always get a really good transcript with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. I
You
had not
can do
actually
it on
considered that.
Substack too, because Substack will give you a transcript.
You
And
learned.
the good
See,
thing
now I'm
was
learning.
the good thing, like a lot of people use Whisperflow. What I really like, and I tried text-to-speech recordings, just like the app on the phone. And
Hmm.
I really, really like if I can go back to the original text, because sometimes there's a, did it catch it correctly? And sometimes you had a good energy. So
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to catch up on the energy you had in that moment. And then it's
Yeah.
really nice if you still have the audio.
Yes. Yeah. It's good to have both for sure. I had not thought about Loom and I didn't know at all about Substack, but that makes complete sense. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I never thought about that. Um,
Loom is a
I'm
audio
just
only option. So you also don't need always to have your face if you don't want to.
that's great. Yeah, because I don't want to watch myself talking. That's
So
perfectly.
Malia's looking at publishing travel by train pieces, which I just think is such a
Yes,
great space. And
it
she's hoping
is.
to get into Afar, Condé Nast travel or Condé Nast. I just
Condé Nast, yeah. Condé
Traveler
Nast.
and Eater.
Eater. Oh, Eater. Malia, that would be a great place for you with some of your food stuff. Yeah. Oh, Otter AI is another good transcription option. Okay. Summarize brain dumps. Good. Yeah.
And Soph
Um,
went over to the chicken
chicken
soup for the
soup.
soul, and they're looking for people to submit stories just like specific to the things that she talks about over on her Substack,
Oh,
which is just like,
perfect. Yeah, so they have a very specific page you may have already found on their writing guidelines that will tell you how to write your story, 1,200 words or less, yada yada. Like it'll tell you exactly what they want, like we were talking about earlier. Make sure you follow those guidelines and you can submit something directly through their website. Yeah, look at the guidelines. That's a fantastic place. I just got goosebumps. I'm so excited for you that that's like they're accepting that story right now. It was clearly a sign that you were meant to be here today. So super excited about that. 46
that's
states on Amtrak, Malia says. Wow. That's
that's
uh
excellent.
that's amazing. Divine timing for sure. Yeah.
And
Any other
Abigail, I know
questions?
she writes about she writes for moms, young moms, and she was just
Okay.
talking about she traveled by train but didn't know
Oh,
anybody.
sweet. Oh
Wants to hear her
no.
horror story
God.
of traveling with a baby. But
Oh my goodness.
there's all kinds of mom magazines out there that cater to uh,
Yes.
women just getting started with the whole family process and
Yeah. Yeah.
tips
It's
for traveling by train because you had this
yeah.
story and you don't want anyone
Mm,
else to have that same experience you had.
yeah. And I think it's really important to remember, we all consume so much content in any given day. It's just mindless to some degree now because we're surrounded by it. But it makes such a difference when you start to kind of take notice of the things that you are consuming. What, could you write something like that or on that topic? And there will be times where I'll read something and think, well, I could have written that. And I kind of get irritated with myself. I could have pitched that somewhere or something like that. Don't don't beat yourself up. Think about how you could have a similar complementary story potentially to that, because finding places where they're already writing about the sort of things that you're writing about is one of the best ways to figure out where you could potentially be published, where your content will fit well. And really all you have to do is create a new angle so that you're not writing about exactly the same thing, but you have some sort of unique proposition to make to the editors at that publication. And that's really what makes the difference. So it's all about paying attention to what you're reading, what you're listening to, where you're listening to. Caroline, good to see you. Thanks for coming today. I'm so glad to see you again. Yeah, but that's the big thing, I think, is to just pay attention to what you're taking in and where you might be able to fit your own content. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Malia, Abigail's in our community over the U World Order on School. You can connect with her there. She's also miracleinthemaking.substack.com. You can find her on Substack. And I'm sure she'll share with you where she's at.
Malia, I will send you a link to the U World Order school community. That's Jill's community, and Malia and I are connected. She's in my community, so I will
definitely
share
do
that link with you so you can be over there. Yeah, I'll take care of that for you.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Krissi, for this amazing
Nope.
presentation. It's been
Thank you.
so interesting. All the options that are open to us that I never really occurred to me that, there's other spaces that could play off of what we're already doing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just so grateful for this opportunity and I'm so passionate about it. And I think a lot of people who are writing don't realize how many opportunities they truly have. And I'm on a mission to change that and help writers, understand what first rights are specifically, because that's really important, but then also get some of your work out into the wider world. So thank you for this opportunity. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm so excited to have shared this with you. And if you have any other questions, you can reach me on my website, krissidriver.com. I'm on the socials, so you can seek me out there. Or, of course, on School. I'm sure if you can't find me on School for some reason, Jill can point you in the right direction. But it was so great to be here with you. Awesome. Okay.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to join us next week when we do our next Monetize Your Mission Mastermind on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Mountain. And feel free to join us in our community, the U World Order. Thanks and bye.